That's classic Bryan.
That's classic Andy over there.
Yep.
8-bit Andy.
It's 8-bit. This is 8-bit Andy coming at you. It sounds like a really shitty YouTube. Hey guys, what's up? It's 8-bit Andy coming at you with another weird game review.
Here's my top 10 Nintendo 64 games.
Here are my top 10 Nintendo games. Number 1, Mario.
That's it. Today on Desktop, we're talking a lot about Pokemon again. Sorry if you're oversaturated with our Pokemon news. We're talking about Pokemon of the Year. We're talking about the Pokemon, the first movie remake. We're talking about other things.
What else did we fucking talk about?
Well, I guess you'll have to see.
Find out.
You'll have to listen to find out.
And we talk about the expansion of technology.
Yeah. We went on some
Very briefly.
We got in some weird ways, but we love you.
I said what I said, so.
And I said we love you, so drink some water and listen to our podcast.
All right. Welcome to Desktop.
Welcome.
Hello.
Howdy.
Welcome to Dusk Pop.
It's great to see you again, or hear us again.
It's good to hear us talking at the Dusk Pop podcast, episode 42.
Episode 42, title to be determined.
That's 42 weeks of trying to monetize conversations with a coworker.
An ex-coworker.
And now ex-coworker. So you have followed us through this entire saga of our working relationship, and now the only thing left that's keeping us together now is this baby that we've made that is podcast. So
I am.
He gets
I'm
you on
asking
weekends.
for child support today. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll post a link to the Patreon.
Here's my GoFundMe for my child support.
How topical. Today's episode of Dusk Pop is a little different than the other ones, and every other episode that we talk about is a little different from the other ones.
Yeah,
but
I was gonna say, I feel like we don't quite have like a 100% formula, so I think whatever deviations we take from that are.
I feel like anytime there's a pause and we start talking, the listener flinches because they're not used to anything. They don't know what to expect with each episode.
They don't know what's coming.
They're scared.
Got to keep them on their toes.
I want you to fear me, and I want you to fear this podcast, but I still want you to listen to us.
I am, on the other hand, a benevolent ruler, and so I rule with kindness. And if that doesn't work, then yes, fear.
Yeah, you gotta use fear, mass manipulation, and or find something of value to the listener, and then hold that hostage and force them to listen.
So Andy, how are you doing? What's up? What's happening?
I'm doing okay. My roommate is in the final stages of moving out. It's all on good terms, so she is.
Sure, it is.
She's moving in with her parents for a little bit to save up to eventually just get her own place. So
very cool.
I've been living with her for 4 years, so it is definitely an emotional time, but it's also, it's an opportunity to grow as a person. So that's been happening. I watched the Pokemon remaster movie, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later. And I am obsessed with the Lego Masters TV show. And my favorite two people were kicked off this week. They did not win the competition.
Darn. Drat.
I feel like you might appreciate it. I'm not too sure. It's a 50-50.
I usually like creative.
They're very wholesome people. There's two people who aren't.
Yeah.
But that's their thing.
I like creative competition reality shows, but also at the same time, I live for the drama. So if there's not a lot of drama, then it ain't for me, mama.
you definitely appreciate the first 2 episodes then.
Okay, there's drama.
There's lots of it's like, dude, fucking chill. This is Lego. But that's a thing, and that's honest. That's about it. Nothing much has happened. Oh, and GDC was postponed due to the virus.
The coronavirus.
Yeah, and I actually will say, before I ask how you're doing, because I do intend to. I want to let you know. So last year, my I guess I want to say business partner. He's the one I kind of do a lot of the game studio stuff with. He had a new job, and he works at the high school close to my house, and so he could not go to the game developers conference last year. He was able to go the first 2 years, wasn't able to go last year, but then the chemical plant explosion happened, and the school closed. And so we were able to like frantically throw together a trip to San Francisco that weekend, that in the span of maybe 1 or 2 days notice.
Yeah.
And he managed to go. And while we were there, we were like, okay, we have to fly back tomorrow. But then they would put the fire out at the chemical plant at the plant, but it would reignite and it would blow up again. So I'm curious if you can hear my cat screaming in the background. But we ended up having to stay extra day, or we got to stay extra days because work kept getting called off because they could not get this fire out. So we had to have been the only 2 people who are rejoicing over this plant, catching fire. So, he was able to go, and it was great. Again, couldn't come to GDC this year, but it was postponed to the summer due to this virus. So there's, we're on an up and up. There might be a chance he can actually go, but I'm looking forward to the next year. What weird disaster is going to happen that...
Yeah, we'll allow him to attend GDC.
Yeah, because the universe just wants him to go, but... I think it's just funny that, chemical plant explosion helped him go this year, and now it's like a fucking epidemic, pandemic virus, whatever. Anyways, how are you?
I'm good. RuPaul's Drag Race. Let me tell you. Let me backtrack a touch.
Play like a flashback.
Friday was sort of a national gay holiday. For multiple reasons.
Okay.
Both of our Christ-like figures, RuPaul had RuPaul's Drag Race Season 12 premiere on Friday, and Lady Gaga had the song that was leaked, Stupid Love, officially premiered with a music video on that Friday as well.
Is she gay?
No, but she's a gay icon. I want to say she might be bisexual, but she is a Christ-like figure in the gay community. It was pretty spectacular. It was all smiles here. So
I thought you were gonna say it was gay Christmas. I was just like, oh, it's gay Christmas.
I don't appropriate from cultures like that, Andy. I would hate to do that.
Yeah, of course.
No, it was great. It was great. It was wonderful. There was lots of rejoicing in the community.
The song was good though.
Song was good. I'm a fan. Not everyone loves it. It is divisive. Some people feel as if it's not up to par with Lady Gaga's standards, but I will say that it's a fun little beat, a fun little tune. It's gonna be probably it's a little early for a summer anthem prediction, I think. Because they always
summer anthem predictions.
They can swoop in at the last second there in the summer. They can happen during the summer.
Man, Summertime Sadness. I mean, that one.
Yeah. But who knows? I mean, I was excited for this song, and I kind of had hoped. Nicki Minaj was the guest judge on Drag Race this week for the premiere, and it was great. She was wonderful. However, I was almost wondering, because this song is debuting, I almost thought that they might debut it on Drag Race, which would have been another level of just...
mind-blowing.
Yeah, it would have been so amazing. So I think that's definitely a missed opportunity. I know it's not always something you can you can plan very easily, but I think Lady Gaga has the power to make those kinds of arrangements happen. Uh, but yeah, it was great. The way they did Drag Race, they split up the contestants. So there's 14, I believe, in this first wave. And so they split them into two groups. So the first 2 hours was the first 7 people, and then next week there's going to be another 7 contestants, and then they will meet each other on the third episode. So,
and they will engage in drag combat.
They will, and that's the most exciting thing when they've done this in the past, where they split up the queens, because then they start to form alliances within the 7, and then when they interact with people from the other group, they've kind of already got some alliances formed, and it's exciting to see them butt heads.
It sounds like it's just a mixture of Big Brother and America's Next Top Model.
It's more than that, Andy. It's Big Brother, America's Next Top Model. It's Project Runway. It's whatever that show on Sci-Fi was, Skin Wars, about painting. There's singing oftentimes. This first competition, they had to write a rap song and sing it, and then also perform it on stage. It actually was good. It was good. Nicki Minaj judged it. That's why she was the guest judge. This was her competition. I keep doing that.
Yeah.
I'm talking with
hands
my
are moving today.
But no, that's why Nicki Minaj was there. They did a rap. They do everything, Andy. Anything you could possibly think of, they do it, and that's what makes this show exciting, because you're not just watching one sort of competition. Like they could be the strongest drag queen in the entire competition, and then they get to a sewing challenge and they can't sew, and then that's their week to go home. You know, it's crazy, but it's great TV. I'm excited. Look forward to more updates about that in the future.
Okay, we'll add that to our check-in list.
Yeah,
I'll ask you about that.
Another thing we've got going on, which this will segue us into our next topic, the Pokemon of the Year results are in. Greninja is our winner by a pretty large margin. We have the results tallied up, and you can go to the Pokemon website to see those, I believe. I spent the time taking top 30...
Head down in the books.
The top 30 from each... they didn't display all results. They just displayed top 30 from each generation. So that's the data I had to work with. That's the data set. I put it all into a spreadsheet, Google spreadsheet, and compiled that total list and looked and saw different trends and different interesting moments in the data.
I just want to take the time to really recognize I'm looking at a spreadsheet with that, just right off the bat, I think 5 different categories, all color coded, and it's all aesthetically pleasing as well. It's like there's title cards with the different font color and title color, and then there's outlines that go into the respective thing. I mean, I thought this was one of those Reddit spreadsheets that
made this.
Some crazy person made, and then it shares on Reddit and all this other stuff. But no, this is all made by Bryan. Mm-hmm. Maybe we could share this link. I don't know.
This was made because the job interview that I had scheduled on Friday was canceled because of the flooding in Houston. So I woke up at 4 a.m. that day. I couldn't get back to sleep, and I had to do something with my time. So
yeah, a water main burst.
A water main burst in Houston, and my job interview was rescheduled.
Well, I'm glad that happened, because I'm looking at just a very pleasing spreadsheet of all sorts of Pokemon. I'm looking forward to diving in, but we should try to share this link.
Yeah, we can for sure. I'll share the link. I'll probably share like an image of it.
Yeah, this is definitely. Just wanted to recognize that this is
thank you.
This is a nice spreadsheet I'm looking at.
On the left, so it's broken up in, you're right, like 5 categories. There is a category I created, which is just all of the Pokemon that were included in the list. So the top 30 from each generation.
And it seems to go from 1 all the way down to Jesus. It's still going.
It's
240.
Yeah, so it's about, like, what is that? A quarter of Pokemon now, or
I think we're in the 800s officially.
So it's about a quarter of all the Pokemon.
Yeah.
So the top 25% or so, that's the list on the left. Then you've got, I divided it into the Pikachu clone / Pikachu family list, which lists Pokemon like Pichu, Pachirisu, Togedemaru, those kinds of Pokemon. Surprisingly, the only Pokemon that were not listed on that list was Minun and Plusle. Neither made it to the list, but I almost count them as the same Pokemon.
Yeah, I can see that.
But neither of them on that generation made it to the list. But all of the other Pikachu clones,
That's
Pikachu
really
family
interesting.
did, yes.
I know that there was a long-standing rumor, and there is data in Smash Brothers that says Min and Plus, and speculation had concluded that Plusle and Minun were going to be characters in Smash Brothers Brawl,
Yeah.
akin to the Ice Climbers, and they
Sure,
were cut. I wonder if we would be
That would have
talking
been
about this still
interesting, yeah.
if that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say, like, we'll kind of loop back to what we talked about last week. The Pokemon that are at the top, a lot of them are key players in Smash Brothers, and
I mean, the top two are the two,
yeah,
standing. It's interesting that Mewtwo wasn't on
Mewtwo
in the top 10.
Mewtwo is not in the top 10, and that was interesting to me too. The only Pokemon that's in the top 10 that's a legendary is Rayquaza, I believe. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that was interesting to see, but yeah, Mewtwo's a little far down. Pikachu's not in the top 10 either. He's a little further down.
I kind of saw that coming. I feel like
Yeah.
Pikachu's too common, I think.
I don't know. I was pretty... With the amount of times... Pikachu is the mascot, the face of the company, and that was interesting, to say the least. Interesting data. He actually, in his Pikachu / clone family, I included him. He is beaten by Mimikyu. Mimikyu pretty much doubled the amount of votes that Pikachu had. But Pikachu is second place, I think, in the Pikachu family voting. Below that, we've got Evolutions. Evolutions is interesting, too. I know you thought Eevee itself would be at the top, but
Yeah.
Umbreon made it in the top 10.
Umbreon is
at
the
top.
biggest wild card. Like Sylveon, I think that I really like Sylveon's design, and
There's
I'm
a
more
lot of
biased for it.
nostalgia for Umbreon.
Umbreon,
Yeah.
whenever I think of Umbreon, I think of Pokemon Coliseum for the GameCube.
He's like the
and you had,
cool evolution that a lot of people think. Like
what is the psychic one?
Espeon?
Espeon.
Yeah.
Espeon is my favorite
Okay.
evolution.
Espeon is the most cat-like
Yeah,
of all the evolutions.
that one's true.
Yeah. So I don't know. But the only evolution that did not make the list of in any of the top 30 in its generation was Flareon. All of the others are there. Eevee, Espeon, Umbreon, Glaceon, Leafeon, Vaporeon, and Jolteon are all there.
That's
and
so
Sylveon, yeah.
Flareon, the only thing I can think of with Flareon was the 2 seconds it was
Yeah.
in Detective Pikachu the movie.
Well, it struck me as odd because I figured it's interesting, and that's why I wanted to break down all this data, because when you look at this, in just about every category, there's about one Pokemon that fits the category that did not make it in. In terms of starters, which is below evolutions, those are all the starter Pokemon that made it in. And that's a pretty large list. Starters made up a good portion of the general list, the overall list. But there were 2 starter Pokemon that did not make it in any single form, which were Tepig, that evolves into like...
That's so strange.
Tepig did not make it in. And what's the other one? I wrote it over there. It should be on the right-hand side. I can't see the list. You don't need to. It's like the orange category, I think.
Chespin.
Chespin. So Tepig and Chespin did not make it in.
Oh, fuck Chespin. That off-brand Piplup looking.
But it's just interesting because...
Or no, Chespin isn't that's Ottawa, right?
Yeah, that's Oshawott.
Oshawott.
If you look at more of the data, the Pokemon that made all of their forms made it in. Sceptile, all three of its forms made it in. Trico, Grovyle, and Sceptile. I want to say, I can't read, but they're. Do you see that category? Can you read that for us?
Yeah, 1 second. Let's see.
Here's all the Pokemon that all of their forms made it in the voting process.
Excluding Pokemon that didn't involved in any Pokemon have all of their evolutions voted to the top. So I see Sceptile, Cyndaquil, Fennekin, Porygon, most impressively.
I'll explain that in a second.
Zoroark,
Yeah.
Minicho,
Yeah.
Frosmoth, Wooper, Esper, Pancham, Phantump. I feel like the people announcing the graduates, like I want to make sure I pronounce all the names right. Rockruff, Snom, Meltan, Vulpix, Pikachu, and Snorlax.
So the interesting thing here, obviously the starters from that are Sceptile, Cyndaquil, and Fennekin. And I just kind of chose one, the most iconic stage from all of them for me. The one that when I call the line, I think of that Pokemon. So
yeah, sure.
So like I call it the Fennekin line, even though that's the first Pokemon, and I call it the Sceptile line, even though he's the top evolution. Anyway, Porygon is interesting because Porygon is the only Pokemon on here who has two evolutions, and they all come from different generations. So Porygon made it in Gen 1. Porygon 2, is that a Gen 2 Pokemon?
I think so. The Porygon forms are so weird. Like I wrote them off.
Porygon 2 is the only one I don't know, but that made it in as well in the separate generation. And then Porygon Z in Gen 4 also made it in. So it's interesting that Pokemon is popular, and Sceptile, Trico, and Grovyle all were voted in Generation 3 in the top 30. But I would kind of attribute that to that Pokemon overall people really enjoy it.
Yeah.
The Porygon one is interesting.
I don't give a fuck about the Porygon evolution. I like the first Porygon because it's low poly, but it loses that aesthetic and the other two forms, and it's just this it looks like it's made out of. It looks like one of those wooden toys from a claymated Christmas special that Santa made, and I don't like that. So yeah, that's interesting. But you can also tell that it was a wise investment for Porygon to put his evolutions in
other places.
Yeah, because people are like, oh, what's this? And then they'll look back to the first Porygon.
Yeah.
And it links them through the generations. Kids know who Porygon is.
But he's the only one Porygon to. It actually made me look at Porygon closer, and I almost was like, this is kind of a cool Pokemon. I never have thought very hard about Porygon, but after seeing this, I was like, I kind of think it's very interesting, and I actually like the forms as it increases. I think it's certainly. I've already said interesting, so I was trying to think of a better word.
Sure.
But you know what I mean.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can't think of for every Pokemon, and I feel like they do a pretty good job at representation for all of them, because for every Pokemon I can think of at least one instance in the anime or something that Pokemon has stood out and done something. Porygon, I think of the banned episode that never made it to America because it gave kids seizures. That's the only thing I could think of with Porygon is that the seizure-inducing episode.
Yeah, I can't really think of him from the anime. I know I remember him as... I remember Porygon as the Pokemon that was only winnable from the casino area.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool. But I never was oh, Porygon's my favorite, or never.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting because it's just it's polygons, but it looks like it's
a low
the shape
poly
of a duck. I don't know.
It reminds me of a modern perfume bottle. You know how they have these weird glass forms and they're very geometric, and you're like, how much money am I paying for just this bottle as opposed to the perfume, because it's ridiculous. But yeah.
Some other things I know you'll be sad to hear. continuing the trend where about one Pokemon didn't make it into its category, of all the box legendary Pokemon, so the legendaries that appear
Yeah.
just on the cover
Oh yeah,
art,
Palkia didn't make it.
Palkia did not make
That's
it in.
great because I hated Palkia.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, Dialga for life, Diamond for life. I'm so in it to win it as far as Diamond versus Pearl that I'm glad that half of the two representatives for that didn't make it because fuck those who picked Pearl.
It's interesting.
It's in
because
yeah.
it continued that trend of like every category where I was like, well, I think all of the Pokemon from this specific subset made it in, but no, there's always one that kind of was left off.
It reminds me of when we were working on the Game Jam thing and we had to cut the list of toys, and anytime there was like a cut toy, I was like, what?
Yeah.
That one? That's kind of how I feel when I look at Pokemon who didn't make the... Just, what?
Yeah.
Palkia? But Palkia? Or Flareon didn't make it? Puzzle Minun? What? I'd be like that no matter what Pokemon, but
yeah.
it's like, how?
Are there any other categories I missed at the write-up there? I know there's probably a couple. I think I broke it down to like the highest
So which
votes.
generation had the least amount of votes? Gen 5 Unova.
Yeah.
That is Black and White, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's not...
It's interesting how it makes me think maybe I'm in the majority of Pokemon
I would say you
consumers of...
I would say
I
you
skipped
are.
that generation, so I bought the games.
Or you just don't you don't look at that generation with fondness.
Yeah, I think of like that weird puberty stage in Pokemon where it was like 3D and I didn't. Yeah, I'm coming around to a lot of the Pokemon designs though. They were all introduced to me in X and Y, and I like a majority of them. But which generation had the most amount of votes? Not surprisingly to me, Generation 1, Kanto had most votes.
Yeah.
Let's see. Any starters did not make it. We did that. Greninja's line sandwiches the entire list.
Oh, yeah.
That one's also interesting. How number 240 is Froakie, and then number 1 is Greninja. How it's sandwiched in.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I wonder if we could draw some sort of correlation there. I don't think we really can.
I don't think so. I think it's just
a
like
coincidence.
it's just coincidental, but it's really neat. Frogadier.
Yeah.
Frogadier is not in the list, which is the middle stage, but how cool would it have been if Frogadier was in the middle of the list? I don't know. That would have been really neat. But most of the middle evolutions for starters did not make it in. Sans the ones that made it in completely, like Fennekin, Sceptile, and Cyndaquil. Yeah. Their middle evolutions were the ones to make it in. None of the Kanto middle evolutions made it in, which I thought was interesting. Bulbasaur was pretty high on Kanto's list.
It's interesting how Ivysaur didn't get it.
That's what I was thinking.
Having Smash Brothers representation and an amiibo.
All the first and last stages of the first generation starters made on the list, but none of the middle evolutions. So.
Huh. Yeah. Pokemon who tied in for votes. It looks like there's three different ones. Yeah. Let's go ahead and solve that by being the swing vote for all three.
Sure.
First one we have Pukamukyu.
Yeah.
What is that one?
That's the little sea urchin one with the mouth that comes in like it's a big hand.
Oh, okay. I know what that is. Yeah, from Sun and Moon.
Yeah.
Muck. Natu. That's the
small bird.
Yeah, it's like the first evolution of. It's
Zatu.
Like a. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Eternatus. That's a weird like storm cloud looking one. Auron, and then Volcarona.
Volcarona. Yeah.
Volcarona is the fire type version of Eternatus, right?
No, Volcarona is the Sinnoh Frost moth. It's another moth, but it's like fire, but it's from Generation.
Oh, okay, yeah. I had the card of that in the Pokemon card game, and it was a pretty decent card.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all these are like the off-brand.
It's funny, yeah.
Yeah, Muck is the only one that I'm like, it's Muck.
I would say Muck and that's another thing. The data that I was given to work from was very limited. They didn't share. I could have sworn when I actually submitted my votes that there were Alolan categories. But looking at this list, none of the forms are mentioned. I think they kind of put them all together for that specific Pokemon. Like, oh, you voted for... Maybe they weren't there and I just imagined them. But I thought that I saw like Alolan Raichu and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So maybe they just combined it with Raichu, or maybe it didn't get enough votes. I just can't imagine. Alolan Ninetales and Alolan Vulpix would have made the list. So I have to think that they didn't include that. But just interesting. I don't know. That's just kind of a breakdown of some of the info. What looking at this, what does this mean to you? Does this mean anything? Am I crazy? Am I just a crazy man with string and push pins all over the wall? And
yes, but I think that the information that you provided and the connections that you pointed out here are very interesting.
Okay, good.
I think this is it's very eye-opening for me. I did not realize that I was in the majority. I thought that I was a little more tucked in with maybe the more hardcore consumers. I think like on a scale of like 1 to 5, 5 being like, you know, hardcore competitive Pokemon fan, I thought I was like a 4, but it's looking like I'm in a nice soft spot of a 3, which I don't know how to feel about that, but I think I'm very happy with the top 10. I think almost every we threw a lot of names out the last episode.
A lot of ours are in the top.
But a lot of the ones we talked about are in the top. I'm happy with that. I would have loved Alakazam to be up there.
He didn't make the list.
But, you know...
He didn't make even the top 30 for Kanto.
It is what it is, and we're just going to have to get him next time. He needs a form that doesn't suck. Because I thought the Mega Evolution of Alakazam was a little weird. And didn't he get a Galarian form?
No.
Or an Alolan form? Did he get some other form?
It was rumored that he was going to get Galarian, but that was proven false.
Okay, we need something else. Alakazam needs we need an upswing. We need a comeback. I don't even think he's a Pokeball summon in Smash Brothers. We need to fix this. So that's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
Greninja totally... I see it.
It's interesting.
He had an Ash form.
It's interesting.
He's in Smash. Yeah. He's a starter. He's in a nice soft spot of
Greninja was kind of featured in Detective Pikachu a little bit as one of the enemies, along with Mewtwo and Pikachu. But I mean,
he was the henchman. Yeah, he was. Yeah, I think he just all the things just turned up in his favor. I think.
But he won by a pretty good margin. Yeah. If you look at the results, I mean, he won by. Just kind of off the top of my head, I want to
almost double the number 2 spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like it's.
Oh, that's starters. Go to the left. It's not.
Those are the
double,
starters.
Yeah. It's not double. I want to say it's like 14,000.
Looks like it's.
We'll go to the left. You're looking at just the starter list. Let's go to the left.
Oh.
Oh my God. But no, you can see. I think was second Charizard or what was
the second one's Lucario.
Lucario.
Yeah,
okay.
Never mind. Yeah,
so it's a small margin, but I mean
it's like 140,000 and then 10,000.
Yeah, so
40,000.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's interesting. It's interesting stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I expected the voting between generations to even be larger than it was.
I'm actually interested that maybe it was. I don't know.
That was the widest margin. Was like, was it 200,000 or something? I don't remember what the number was, but it was not very large comparatively.
It's interesting. It would be interesting to see which type had the most votes.
Yeah, if I had more time, I probably would have broken it down further.
Yeah, I was gonna say you probably thought about it, but it's probably a lot.
It wasn't something that I necessarily thought about when I was like.
Because I think that would be very interesting information to see. Oh, like on average, people like water types more than. Because I'm curious if it goes into. Are people voting subconsciously by type advantage, or are they like voting by type in general, or is it just a coincidence? Because I know the type definitely dictates the color palette used for the Pokemon, which might determine
maybe
something.
I think design and I
think something there.
Overall usefulness in the game. like just looking at Greninja, like the things Greninja has going for it. Design. It has kind of a neat design that wasn't really used in the game before. It's like this frog that's like a ninja, and like it has a nice color palette. It is useful in the anime. It's useful in the video game. It's a character in Smash Brothers. It's I don't know if it was in Pokken Tournament, but I assume it might have been.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, then it's a character in Smash
Oddly
Brothers.
enough.
Yeah, it's strange, but
Where's Chandelure?
Chandelure made it in the what generation is that? Is that X and Y? Yeah, it's pretty high up.
Oh, it's number 18. I'm happy with that.
I want to say Gudra is pretty. The one I voted for is pretty close to that too. I don't remember.
Or maybe it's higher.
I think it might be lower. Maybe it is lower, but it wasn't too bad.
Gudra is...
You have to go to the left. Yeah.
Number 45.
45. Okay. Yeah. Out of the 200 something Pokemon, I was like, oh, okay, well that's good.
I wonder.
I almost voted for Aegislash because I really do like Aegislash, but
I'll have to find my top 10 favorite Pokemon because we talked about it a while back.
Yeah.
And
I
find
know
the average.
Aegislash is on my list, so I got some good points there.
I need to find the average number of votes, like how popular the Pokemon I picked.
Yeah. Venusaur is on the list. A lot of mine made it to the list except Dunsparce.
Yeah, I think the only one that was on my top 10 list that is in this top 10 is Gengar.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And on the topic of Pokemon, because we'll be when we're both gone, we'll both be two skeletons talking about Pokemon. Mm-hmm. Did you see the remake of the Pokemon movie on Netflix?
I have not seen it, but I've received reports that you have.
Yeah, I was blind, but now I see. It never.
I will watch it. Just to be clear, I haven't not watched it for any reason. I will.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen it yet.
So whenever I watched it as a kid, it was something to watch. I enjoyed the movie as a kid. I
loved the Pokemon the first movie. I loved it.
As I grew up,
I loved to cry when Ash turned to stone.
Oh my
God!
God.
Or whatever. I just loved it.
I never got that because I'm just like, he's on the cover of the. As a kid, I'm just like, Ash is like on the cover of the box, like he's gonna live. I don't. But when
all the Pokemon start crying and all the Pokemon like tears start collecting, like I would always cry at that moment.
Oh, you gotta help Ash.
Well, no, I am so.
Your tears would draw into the TV.
They floated. I was even more empathetic as a child than I am now, and so seeing other people cry or seeing other people having a hard time or something just destroyed me. So I would just cry to the point where I ran out. Like I think The Lion King, I used to watch that and cry all the time when Mufasa died, and my mom was like, "We can fast forward through this part." She tells this story all the time, and every time she's like, I was young. I was like 3 or 4 or something. Probably 3. But anyway, she tells the story and she's like, she offered to fast forward through that part every time. And I was like, no, I have to see it. And she was like, what? Okay. She's like, you're going to cry. I know. I've got to cry.
That's great.
So that part always got me emotional.
Yeah, so I never realized how horrible the writing is for that movie.
Okay.
Like, the story in general is just so fucking bad. I never saw it through this critical lens before. It was always veiled in nostalgia and this, it's Pokemon,
Because that's where I'm sitting now. Like, yeah. I still think it's fine.
There's this part, maybe the last movie I badmouthed was a Sonic movie, and the last group of people I badmouthed it to, they ended up watching and they all loved it. So maybe me saying that it's not good before you watch it might make you like it now.
Subconsciously flip the switch.
But there's a part in the movie where Ash receives a letter, which has a hologram on it that he's invited to this castle.
Very like Star Wars kind of like hologram, like come save me a little. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
The very opening part of the letter is like, please forgive this letter from a stranger.
Is
It's
it?
like, yeah.
I don't know. Is that how it is in the first movie though? Like the original? Did you look up to see if that was like?
I didn't look up.
Okay.
There were definitely scenes that were added in for
Because
this movie.
I heard that there were scenes that were taken away too.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if the writing has changed.
There are definitely different interpretations. They did not use the same voice acting lines. They got the voice actors to come back and re-record all the lines.
I almost wish they would have just used the lines.
It's very weird to see the same movie and the same general script, but Meowth's voice actor, I don't know if they got a different voice actor or if like, oh, they're older, or Meowth's voice, his nuances changed over time in the anime, and he brought that with this remake of the. But it's definitely different, so that's a little weird. But the writing is just so, like, please forgive this letter from a stranger. And there's another part where Mewtwo's like, how was I made? Who created me? Why was I created? I hate everything having to do with my creation. And he like says all of those things consecutively, and it sounded really. It sounded like it was written by a 5th grader. But overall, I liked the movie because I liked the original. I don't think I would have enjoyed this at all had I never seen it or had a soft spot for Pokemon. And I didn't like the character designs. I thought the eyes were a little further apart than they should have been, and they were a little smaller than they should have been. But a good portion of the movie, I got used to it, and I kind of like it now. So I hope they do it again. I'd like to see another movie. And also, it's crazy how this is the first Pokemon movie, and Pokemon's all about, traveling and collecting Pokemon and all this, going on a journey. And the whole movie's spent in just a very large room. Or a very large stadium.
Well,
And
I think because this was like a different platform, like to argue, to be devil's advocate, like you have the animator do all that. This movie is like the special that's like, oh, there's going to be something that's happening. Like,
sure, I get. I just think of the what is it? The movie with Entei, and there's this big fortress, and they have to go into the fort. They have to break in, and now they're in the fortress. They have to work their way to the top of the spire, and there's like moving action.
I remember scenes like that from this movie, whether they brought them in or not. Like I remember Ash like desperately trying to hang on to like the Pokeball with this Pikachu in it. You know what I mean? Like,
and that part is intense in this new one. Yeah,
but like I remember those sorts of action scenes, and like when Ash is it?
I think he's launched into the air by Mewtwo. Mew catches him, and he's on a bridge.
And he's in the yeah.
But both of those are very 10 seconds he's away, but then he comes right back. Like he gets the Pokeball, he saves his Pikachu, and then it's weird because it's a remake. So I'm not spoiling you. You know what happens.
No, I know. Yeah,
he gets a Pokeball, and then he frees the other Pokemon, and then he heads right back to where he was. And
does he do the like smoke cloud walk-in thing?
Yeah.
Okay. That was I loved that. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah. It's so. I hope that they keep doing that. I want them to remake it. And another interesting thing that I've always thought about with this movie is I always wondered before this, why don't they ever make a shot-for-shot remake of an animated movie and just update it? Yeah. But then I thought, well, it's probably a slap to the face of like everybody who worked on the original, because it's like it's not a new work. You're just kind of going over someone else's work and making it look. And if people like it better, then they're not watching the original, and all those people's hard work is kind of in vain. So I see why they make reboots and change things up a bit and do different stuff. But this kind of did what I was talking about. They remade the movie almost shot for shot, line for line remake. What do you think? What are your thoughts on that? I don't know how I feel about.
It's interesting because I know, like what I was saying, like I know there's a part that was left out. I was seeing people post that the whole Mewtwo speech about like the same Earth, same sky kind of thing, was not in the movie. Is that true?
That is correct.
So they excluded that part, which is kind of the thesis statement of like the whole film.
He does the whole like the circumstances of one's birth are relevant, and it's what you do with your life.
Sure, but he doesn't do the whole thing like.
I don't think so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know. I think
because it's like
I think this is a different work that has been. It's obvious it's obvious that it's a love letter to the original. I mean, they obviously aren't like changing it in a crazy way. Um, but I also think enough time has passed that that's fine. If they were to do that 5 years after, yeah, that would be shitty. But I think
Yeah.
this is a nice resurgence where the movie might have not had that. And this might encourage people to go through and watch the original as well to see the other differences and stuff like that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
So
I think that there's just so many strong similarities between the two that forever that like for me,
Sure.
this is just a definitive version. Like if I had to choose between
watch
watching
this one
the
now?
original, this is just taking up that new slot. It's like a newer thing, so I'm just gonna.
it's a newer thing.
You know, it's not like a reboot. You know, if there are any changes, it's like minimal. I didn't really like hit all the same beats. It's
Sure.
but yeah, I was just curious. I guess it.
I think there will always be that nostalgia that surrounds the original, and I think that not everyone will like
Yeah, I
fill
think
that slot. I think some people will still feel the original is their version, and like
yeah.
that's just life.
I think anime itself, 2D anime has that particular aesthetic that I think is pleasing, and this movie definitely doesn't hit that. It doesn't really have its own style. It's very rough, but I'm looking forward to. I'd love to see another version or another movie that's 3D in Pokemon that
Sure, yeah.
they can use to make it a bit more stylized. But I'd
'Cause
love to see more.
After this, there was the, was it Pokemon 2000 was after this?
Yeah, that's correct.
Then
With the-
Pokemon Forever?
Which
Which one was the
no.
Entei one?
That's Pokemon 3000.
Not 3. It's not 3000. It's definitely 2000.
I think it's called.
Because it was the year 2000. That's why.
Yeah, I think it's Pokemon the first movie, Pokemon 2000, Pokemon 3000, and then Pokemon Forever. I'm pretty sure.
If I'm wrong, like, I will concede. I will concede to you.
This subject matter is, I'm 70%.
I
Sure.
cannot believe that there's one. It's Pokemon 3, the movie, Andy. It's not Pokemon 3000.
Okay.
It's Pokemon the first movie, Pokemon the movie 2000, but like the 2 is a little bigger. So
Yeah.
it's like 2. Then it's Pokemon 3, the movie, Pokemon Forever. Then you kind of lose that naming convention. Then there's
The one with Latios and
Pokemon
Latias, I think.
Heroes with
Yeah.
Latias and Latias, Pokemon Jirachi Wishmaker, Pokemon Destiny Deoxys. Then there's Lucario and the Mystery of Mew.
Yeah.
Pokemon Ranger and the Temple of the Sea.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
there's some. Then we get into
Oh,
like.
I thought you were
the-
gonna keep. I was like, okay, I still saw that one.
Those are the ones. The next one doesn't even have a. It's Pokemon the movie White, Black and White Victini.
Yeah, that's when. That's
Oh, I haven't seen
the
that one.
Victini. I remember.
Pokemon Black. Oh, here it is. It's listed twice for some reason, and one of them doesn't have a photo, but the next one does. Pokemon the movie. Oh, maybe it's Pokemon the movie White, Victini and Zekrom or whatever.
Yeah,
and
I
then
think Black and White got two
they got
separate
two
movies.
Interesting. And then they got Pokemon Curium and the Sword of Justice.
Yeah, the one before that one, I went on a marathon and I tried to watch all the Pokemon movies just to, do it. And I made it to that one, and at that point I was done. I was too tuckered out. I just couldn't keep going.
I actually have seen Pokemon the movie Hoopa and the Clash of Ages. I've seen parts of that. But the other ones I have not.
There was one movie that I actually went out of my way to watch. Mewtwo was a prominent figure again, but it was the
Genesect and the Legend of
Yeah, it was that one.
and the Legend Awakened.
Yeah, because Mewtwo's in that one, but it's
He's on the cover. He's the
Y form.
the
yeah.
Y form, the Y
And
Mega Evolution.
He's voiced by a woman, and it's never confirmed that it's the same Mewtwo that Ash ran into in the first movie.
Yeah.
And it made me like, did they retcon that? Are there multiple Mewtwo now? What does this mean? I haven't looked it up yet, but I was curious if the Pokemon movies were even canon.
I don't know. I don't
Because
know if there's really like a true canon to this universe, if that
most
makes sense.
most anime movies are never really canon anyways, but the Mewtwo one makes direct references to the anime where because Mewtwo's in the anime and the armor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, usually the movie will make references to the anime in the way that it's like it'll be Ash's team that he has right now in the anime.
Yeah.
It'll be like, but it's almost like a spin off, like a branch of a tree that it goes in that direction, but doesn't quite connect to anything else.
Yeah.
But, I mean, maybe they're canon. I don't know.
But that's the one thing I was curious about whenever that Mewtwo one came out. It's like, is Mewtwo hatching eggs now? Like, what? What?
It looks like there is a large amount of separate canons in the Pokemon universe from this article I'm reading.
Okay. Wow.
Events occurring in the core series games are the ultimate canon. That is law. Choices made by or for player characters, such as the hero, gender, and starter Pokemon, are generally not fixed within the canon. It goes kind of like, but apparently the game precedes the anime.
Oh yeah, I always knew
Yeah,
that.
I never realized that.
Because like Ash is a fanfic version of Red, whereas Red and like Pokemon Masters is like the canon Red.
Yeah, but you'd think at some point like Ash would have just power crept Red, like in terms of like canon.
I feel like
viability, like it would have just turned into the I don't know, general consensus of the public perceiving Ash as like the main character. You know what I mean? Would just have shifted him into the role of
I
that.
think it's because the Game Freak writers aren't in charge of the anime. That's probably what's keeping them from. Yeah, because I think like Ash doesn't even get like Smash Brothers references really. Like he doesn't have
yeah, you're right.
I think he has a spirit or sticker, but they're pretty separate.
Sure.
So, yeah, I really enjoyed the manga too, and like it's. I wish that my brain wasn't, so harsh on things that aren't canon, because I really liked the manga, but when I realized that it wasn't canon, I was just like, why am I reading this? This is like no different from fan fiction. Like, I can't. It's impossible for me to suspend my belief any further than like, oh, I'm reading a fictional story, but oh well, this fictional story didn't happen officially in this fictional universe that somebody just made up. I can't possibly. I feel so like I'm betraying.
That's interesting. I never think about that.
I think about that all the time.
I never even think like, oh, is this like, if I know something's weird and not happening in the main universe, I'm just like, oh, this is a nice little like side story to go on and see.
Yeah, the line of thought that was closest to me looking past something and just watching it, that it was no longer canon, was, oh, maybe there's a multiverse and it's another universe or something, but even then it's just like, no. So anytime they reboot like a superhero franchise, I'm like, goodbye, Tobey Maguire. Like, I can't watch your movies anymore because it's not canon. I can't.
You're out of the canon.
It does not count.
Load up another cannonball.
I've never watched Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man since they rebooted it. Like, I can't. Why would I? It's not canon. It doesn't matter. It's not relevant. Yeah, and like whenever they made, I can officially watch Arrow and Flash and those shows now because Ezra Miller's Flash confirmed it was in a multiverse and they met each other. So I'm like, all this is canon now. I can watch all the DC stuff. I can watch all of it now because it's all canon. I'm not going to, but yeah, I'm like very hesitant on the Netflix Marvel stuff because I'm like, it was canceled and I don't know if it's canon, but I really like it. But it's like
I'm excited for the New Mutants still. I keep seeing the trailer when I go see movies.
Yeah, that one's gonna be a hard one to watch because I'm gonna watch it, but I'm like, it's not canon.
But we got a lot of cool stuff coming up. I know, like we can finish the Pokemon discussion, but when we got Animal Crossing coming up.
Oh, I think it sounds like we were about finished. Okay. So.
Got Animal Crossing and Doom on the same day, and we've got.
Yeah, I love the fandoms. They're really embracing each other, and that doesn't happen a lot, and I think that's really cool.
I think it's nice, and then
I want the developers to reference it now.
Yeah,
that's the next step.
Doom guy comes to live in your town.
Yeah.
Lives on your island.
I just see like both the Twitter accounts just congratulating the other on like a game launch.
Yeah.
Anytime a new console launches, it's always weird to see like when the PlayStation 4 launched, Xbox and Nintendo were both like, "Hey, congratulations on your launch." And same thing with Xbox One and the Switch.
Yeah.
And it's always like, what weird PR is this? It's like it's nice, but yeah.
Did you hear CD Projekt Red came out and said that basically if you purchase this game on Xbox One, then when the next Xbox system comes out, you will automatically have the upgrade. You won't need to purchase it again.
It's weird. I think this is the beginning of the end for modern consoles. I think Xbox is going to be the front runner in this.
Okay.
They're going to keep calling them Xboxes, but they're gaming PCs now. That's
sure. I mean, yeah, they've been that for a little bit.
They're not going to be, oh, this is the new Xbox system. It's just this is the next model of the same system that plays all the same things, because this new Xbox plays every Xbox system before it, and they're really going out of their way to say, oh, this is the Series X. This is not it's not the Xbox 5 or something, And I think PlayStation's going to follow suit, not with this one, but I think the next one is going to be like this.
Okay.
Oh, this is like iPhones now. There's like 5 new... A new iPhone never launches. They always launch in like 3s. There's 3 different ones, and they, they're just more powerful, but they do the exact same thing,
Who are you?
Yeah.
I'm you, but more powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the end. I think Nintendo will probably be the last one standing with like, oh, this is a new console, new gimmick. This is a new thing.
Which, I mean, I don't think that will become obsolete. I think Nintendo will just keep carving the niche for that. I think that'll continue to make them stand out, probably, and in a world where we do push games in this direction, Nintendo will probably keep doing things their own way for a while, and
they're gonna kind of go in that direction and make those pocket. I mean, they've been doing that for a long time, but I think they're gonna keep doing that. Xbox and PlayStation are just turning into these gaming PC things.
Sure.
And then
it's only a matter of time before just everything's owned by like Amazon. Then it doesn't matter.
Then the next step, either it's gonna happen concurrently or whatever, but the like NVIDIA GeForce Now and Google Stadia and all the other ones are going to... I think that service is also going to be a big thing.
Yeah, I think we're moving towards that too. I think we weren't quite ready for it with Stadia right now.
GeForce Now, like I've been using it.
Yeah, yes.
For years. Now that it's officially open to the public, it sucks.
Oh, really?
You have to pay monthly now to play for So if I'm playing Cuphead right now, and I have to use GeForce Now. I could play it on my phone. It works perfect, but you can only play for an hour. And then after that hour, it kicks you out. And then you can go back in and you can play it again. But then it kicks you out in an hour. So you have to log back in every hour.
That's
and so
awful.
It's like, you get like, oh, it's going to close out in 40 minutes. And then later it's like, it's going to close out in 20 minutes. I'm like, okay, I need to wait for it to say it's going to close out in like 30 seconds so I can save it.
Wow.
Then it closes out. Then I open it now that it's public. Because when it was in beta for years, I could play unlimited. It's fine.
Yeah.
And so that's fucking frustrating.
Yeah.
To have unlimited power, then them tamper that back now that everybody has access to it.
Yeah.
And also now that...
I guess it keeps people from sitting on it.
Yeah.
But I mean,
they're taking servers because like whenever I want to play it, it says, oh, you're number 3 on the queue list, and I have to wait 2 or 3 minutes before I can actually play.
Yeah.
So
wow, that sucks.
Like that's the way that like that service is great, but now that it's open to everybody, and you have to pay for it, it's like, God, like
how much is it? Do you know?
I don't remember. I might have to just bite the bullet and do it.
Sure. They're just making it so inconvenient for you to play something long form. Yeah.
Or I'll just install it on my PC and I could use NVIDIA to stream it, and that's unlimited, but it's still taking up space on my PC, and my PC's running it, so if I'm at a hotel, I can't really do that. So I might have to pay monthly. I think it might be worth it. I think it's definitely better than Stadia, but Jesus, like,
Yeah.
I'm in hindsight, I wish I never knew what I was missing out on. And like now that I'm crippled by, that fucking sucks. But anyways, streaming is gonna be the next. That's the next.
It will. I mean, it's just
frontier.
easier. It's easier for people to have one device or to be able to.
It's like, why upgrade if you can play best settings?
Well, you can still upgrade.
Fee.
You can still upgrade pieces of that ecosystem, like the whatever you are using to stream it, I guess. But you know what I mean. You don't need to upgrade everything. I'm sure it'll get to the point where they do push for you to upgrade everything, but I don't know. It's just interesting. It's an interesting world we're living in where things are changing. Times are changing.
Yeah, the upbringing of people. Like I think the last thing, because we've been going for a bit, we probably need to wrap it up. But the last thing is, I just remember like the GameCube, and it was a new console. It looked completely different. It had a completely different gimmick, and it had its own branding style. Whereas Nintendo 64 was, whoa, look at all these colors, crazy.
Yeah.
GameCube was like this edgy, it was like this weird thing. I don't know. And then just on Christmas morning unboxing it, and it was this big box, and you see all the games on the back, and with each system since then, it was like this big, it's a different thing, it's a different feel, the boxes are different. We're entering this time now where a kid's just gonna open up this stream box that's like maybe the size of their phone.
It's not even gonna be a stream. It's gonna be a paper that says like, by the way, you now have access to this.
Yeah, on your browser. Or like it's like a Fire Stick thing. It's not. It's less of a flamboyant occasion, And so I'm curious how that difference will like psychologically affect someone, because you're getting the same thing as a GameCube or whatever, but it's less of like a.
I mean, people used to get.
This is a new thing.
People used to get oranges for gifts. You know what I mean? It's just
sure. I just mean
it's just the evolution of the.
It's like the illusion of like 10 presents $10 $5 presents versus like a $1 $50 present. Those 10 $5 presents look more appealing than this one box.
Sure.
This little streaming stick that does the same thing this big console does is in a smaller box. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it.
I think you're overthinking it.
I just psychologically, I couldn't imagine getting a system that's not in this big box.
Well, because now you've experienced that. But I mean, think about someone who's never experienced like a console, and they just get they might at this point be like, why would I want this big bulky thing when I could have this small piece that does exactly the same thing? You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think it's positive for technology. I think we're moving in the right direction. Now if we could all just not die from this coronavirus or that kind of stuff, that'd be great. But
that's
video game wise, we're doing wonderful.
Yeah. I agree. Well,
I have to survive at least until the Pokemon expansion release in June. And then after that, all bets are off. I'm fine. I've made peace. I'm ready to go. But yeah.
All right. Well, you've heard it here. You've heard it here, folks. It's gonna be May.
Yeah. June.
I think, right? June. Okay, June.
I want to say it's June 13th.
Okay.
That's what's in my brain right now. But
I have time to beat Pokemon.
I have to survive until then.
Okay. You got to be very cautious.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. We've definitely enjoyed talking in your ear.
Yeah.
If you catch all 15 subliminal messages in our podcast, type them down and send them to us. If you get them all right, then you get indoctrinated into our secret society.
I also want to say too, I've been pushing for this a little bit more in our comment area of the podcast, the about section of each episode. But if you enjoy the episode, review it, subscribe to us, tell people about the podcast. We would certainly appreciate it. If you have any ideas for topics you'd like covered or things you would just like to hear us say, email deskpopcast@gmail.com. And all that will be in the the information below.
We want to know. Can you show us? All right. Well, thanks. That was going to go in 8 different directions, and I picked none of them.
You cut it short.
Yeah, I sometimes I just need to shut the fuck up, And if you want us to shut up,
email and tell me to make Andy shut up.
We're just gonna keep going until
we'll
he tells us to stop.
Consideration. So.
All right. Well, see you later. I'll see you later. See you right now.